Hey, did you know? I have merch now! Get some sick shirts, hoodies, and a lot more. New designs every month. TheAnimeMan.merchforall.com. Links in the description. Rep that weeb shit, boy!
Yeah.
How's it going, everyone? This is the Anime Man. It's the end of February, and you know what that means, right? Nothing. It actually doesn't mean jack shit. Unless, of course, you are a member of a certain United Nations, who, for those of you who don't know, are said to be, quote, an intergovernmental organization that was tasked to maintain international peace and security, develop friendly relations among nations, achieve international cooperation, and be a center for harmonizing the actions of nations. Ooh, Wikipedia, I thought you had facts on your website. I thought that's what you were meant for. Because it seems in the list of all the things that this United Nations organization seems to be covering, you forgot one very important line, which is, and they love fucking with shit that's a goddamn waste of time. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, it is the end of February, and while it doesn't really mean jack shit to the rest of us normal human beings, apparently for the people over at the United Nations, it marks 2 more months on letting these disgusting degenerates and creatures rummage the precious soil of our earth with anime lollies as their mobile phone backgrounds. These kids must be stopped! So if you haven't heard the news yet, because I'm always late to this kind of shit for some reason, lovely folks over at the United Nations have done yet again another one of their famous oopsies by proposing a protocol to ban the possession and distribution and basically prohibit all forms of lollies, shotas, and underage pornography from the face of this earth. Now, obviously, I'm not talking about, like, real-life child pornography. I mean, come on, guys. Even the rest of the world has already gotten onto that shit a long time ago. Except for you, Japan. You were a little bit late to the party. No, this year, the United Nations are trying to step on the feet of these disgusting weeaboos and otakus all over the world by getting rid of all forms of doujinshis, hentai, manga, and anime that include any levels of lollies, shotas, and underage children depictions. Because somebody over at the UN looked at fucking Shiro from No Game No Life and said, where's my fucking glasses? Oh my god, this is absolutely disgusting. Oh, Gerald, take this. Just take all of this and you know what, bury it under that giant vat of nuclear waste that's out in the desert. You know the one that we're not doing anything about and is completely there illegally. Yeah, you just put it under there. That'll for sure get rid of the demon spawn from this earth. Now, look, I know what you're thinking about already. You're probably thinking, Joey, this is fucking stupid. We have to protect the lollies waifus. And yeah, you're right. Because truth be told, I don't give a flying fuck what you beat your meat to in the middle of the night in your room in your own privacy, because getting rid of lollies and shotas in anime, manga, doujinshis, and hentai, which is essentially, you know, fiction, shockingly isn't gonna get rid of people having fucked up thoughts and sexual attractions like that. What the United Nations are trying to do essentially in this situation is a little thing called thought policing. It is the act of someone trying to stop another person from thinking about something that may possibly be ethically, morally, or legally unsanitary, because there is the possibility that that terrible thought process may bring out real-life consequences and hurt themselves or the people around them. Like, this is some straight-up, like, George Orwellian 1984 shit, my dude. Like he wrote about this shit. I don't know if the people at the United Nations realize that George Orwell's 1984 is, you know, a kind of satire about, like, how the politically and, like, morally and ethically fucked up the world is gonna get. Basically, it's gonna fall into an apocalypse if people try to control other people's thoughts and over-controlling what everybody thinks and does in the world. Because let's do the maths here. Fictional lolitas and shotas plus thought policing equals international peace and security by the United Nations.
Does not compute, bitch!
And mind you, if you're new to this whole United Nations tomfoolery, this isn't the first time that the UN tried to fuck us in the ass in terms of getting rid of something in anime and manga. No, these fuckers tried to do it before, back in 2016. Some smart aleck decided that it would be a great step towards international peace and security by banning games and visual novels and hentai and stuff like that from Japan that depicts sexual violence against women because it is unsanitary and is the great step forward to protecting the actual rights against real women, you know, by getting rid of fictional women. That's a great start, isn't it? But of course, Japan straight up came over and told the United Nations to go fuck themselves because they straight up said, getting rid of this shit is actually going to, you know, screw up our industry and is actually kind of getting rid of, you know, female jobs. Like, females also make games and hentai like this. You do realize that, right? So you can go away and leave us alone. I mean, I'm not going to go into it in detail in this video because I've already done several videos on that topic. Links in the description if you want to check those out. Do you realize though, ladies and gentlemen, that me doing this and me and you sitting here looking at this image could possibly get us arrested? This is what the United Nations thinks is the answer to international peace and security, by getting rid of an image. What? But fear not, ladies and gentlemen, neither you or I are going to get arrested by looking at this particular image because this protocol that the UN is proposing to the world is not going to pass. And I can confidently say that not because we have past examples of the UN trying to fuck with the otaku community, as I mentioned before, but because the United Nations themselves have assured us that by naming this particular protocol in a certain way, it is most likely not going to happen. Because the United Nations decided to dub this particular agreement the optional protocol to the Convention on the Rights of the Child. The key word here, ladies and gentlemen, is optional. See, what a lot of us people tend to forget when we look at an article like this and think, oh no, anime and manga are gonna get banned, what are we gonna do, guys, is that the United Nations in reality may look like this large and powerful entity that is able to control things in the world, but in actuality, they have basically zero power and control over the world. They're like that one macho jock that you probably saw in high school that had just the most amazingly ripped body, but if you put them in a fist fight, they can't win to save their life. That's the United Nations. It's just all looks, no substance. Because you see, with these kinds of optional protocols such as this, all the United Nations can do is essentially come up with the protocol and suggest it to other countries, basically trying to talk them into signing this piece of paper that is effectively going to change their laws. A lot of the times how these protocols get passed is that the United Nations basically fearmongers the country into being like, if you don't sign this, then you're going against basic human rights. You don't care about the people in this world? How dare you sign this right now? But on the other hand, that basically means that if the country in question is aware of the contents of said protocol and realizes that it's not going to help their country, it's not going to solve any problems, it's just fucking stupid in its entirety, then that country can decide to not sign it. Which is exactly what happened back in 2016 to Japan when they decided to disagree and not sign the contract or the protocol to ban the distribution and production of sexual violence against women in visual novels and hentai. And in this case, once again, Japan is going to deny them, and I know that they're going to deny them. Why? Because regardless of whether you think these lollies and shotas and hentai and anime are just these things, these things that people weirdly beat their meat to, in reality, this is a business. You know how they say money talks? Well, this statement couldn't be any more true in this particular instance, and it is so much more of a powerful term than the UN could ever hope to believe. Japan is fully aware that a protocol prohibiting the possession and production of drawings and cartoons of lollies and shotas in the most basic of standards, because who the fuck knows where the standards are in this, like this, is most definitely going to not only cripple the doujinshi and hentai industries, but is also most likely going to cripple the entire manga and anime industry as well. Yes, it's true that lollies and shotas in stuff like anime and manga are definitely not as sexually explicitly shown as, say, in doujinshi and hentai, because There really is no limit in doujinshi and hentai in terms of that stuff. But the manga and anime industry is just as in danger because they still are showing lollies and shotas in some respect. And let's be honest, do you really think that the United Nations is going to give a fuck about the difference between lollies and shotas in anime and manga versus hentai and doujins? Like, this is an organization that can't tell the difference between fictional drawings on ink and paper and the danger of real-life children subject to sexual acts, sexual prostitution, and slavery. So if the United Nations can't even tell the difference between that, do you really think they're going to be able to tell the difference between Rokyubu and Shoujo Ramune? To be fair, Shoujo Ramune is pretty fucked up though. Japan, knowing fully well how powerful and thriving of a business the manga, anime, doujinshi, and hentai industries are in their country, aren't stupid enough to willingly sign an agreement that would financially fuck them in the ass, because it's just not gonna happen. Like, Japan has already been through several economic crashes. I think they've learned their lesson, folks. And it's not just the anime, manga, hentai, doujinshi industry. Like, think of all of the other industries and departments that is directly related and is dependent on the success of these industries. Comic-Con, one of the biggest comic markets and festivals in the entire world, gone. Your favorite anime convention in your local area, gone. The jobs and livelihoods of hundreds and thousands of voice actors, artists, authors, directors, producers, writers, and publishers, gone. And it's not just Japan that's going to suffer from all of this too. If your particular country of residence decides to sign this protocol and agree to it, then it's basically stopping the thriving of these industries over to your country and is going to make it illegal in your country. While it may be okay in Japan, if you say went to Japan, bought a first volume of No Game No Life and bring it back to your country and they found you with that, your ass is going to jail. How fucked up is that? This can affect people on a personal level, but on the grander scale of things in the long run, this could actually affect the entire growth of the industry and fuck up these industries who are trying to outsource it to other countries and basically distribute it and make it known in other countries. And yet, after all of that bullshittery, I guarantee that the people at the UN are just gonna lean back on their way too incredibly expensive armchair with a hot cup of tea, sipping it ever so elegantly while they read a good book. And no, I'm not talking about that disgusting lolly and shota manga and anime, doujinshi and hentai. What are you
Fucked up in the head.
No, I'm talking about some classical literature, some absolute masterpieces of modern literature. Something sophisticated, something elegant, something that will aid towards international peace and security. You know, like Vladimir Nabokov's Lolita. A sophisticated and sanitary story about a doctor falling in love with a 12-year-old girl to the point where he becomes her stepfather and starts to have sexual attractions and starts to basically have sexual acts with a 12-year-old. Classic literature. Like, seriously, how can anyone take the United Nations seriously at this point? Obviously, us otakus and weeaboos watching this and are completely against the United Nations at this point are already not taking them seriously, but I'm more so talking to the people who actually agree with this particular protocol, or with any protocols for that matter. Like, how can you take the United Nations seriously? For an organization striving to solve world peace and all the world problems, they're kind of getting their priorities fucked up if they're putting the banning of lollies and shotas over something like, I don't know, the fact that British gangs are abusing the anti-slavery laws by creating child drug mules, or the fact that they're prioritizing getting rid of video games that have sexual violence against women, against, I don't know, honor killings in the Middle East because they kill people for fucked up religious reasons that no one is questioning, or, you know, basically any other fucking problem that's actually going to change the world. Okay, so to sum it all up for all of you who have been just skipping through this video, and I know there are some of you fuckers out there. No, this protocol is not going to pass, so there is nothing to worry about. No, this will not solve the real life problems of child slavery, child prostitution, and pedophiles in the world, because there is no scientific direct correlation to these two things. No, there is absolutely nothing wrong with consuming doujinshis and hentai of this particular subject matter, so long as you don't act upon it with real life participants and you keep it inside your head and room. And yes, The United Nations are a powerless, hypocritical, clueless excuse of an organization that needs to leave the otaku culture alone and actually prioritize on shit that is going to solve the world. And if you're wondering to yourself, Joey, what if this protocol actually does pass and you're wrong about everything you said in this video? Then, well, all I can say is, I hope you've caught up on your George Orwell. Guys, let me know what you think about all of this kind of stuff. Do you agree with the protocol? Do you disagree with the protocol? Do you think a protocol like this is going to solve the problem, or do you think we have to start looking at other options? Also, what are your general thoughts on the whole thought policing matter? I've always been interested to see what people think about that, because I have seen both sides of the argument, and some people have been saying, you know, thought policing entirely, like, you know, George Orwellian thought policing is probably a bad thing for society, but there is no harm in a little bit of thought policing. Like, not all of it is bad, but too much of it is bad. That kind of thing. I'm really interested to know your thoughts and opinions on all that kind of stuff, so make sure to let me know all that kind of stuff in the comments below. Also, hey, let's do a thank you to my lovely patrons for this month: Ian Gardner, Brandon Rass, Tinned Anime, Shu Rim, Yadiel Carrion, Grand Accurate, Aaron McMullen, Lucy First, Lil Thimble, Hunter Gibbons, Casual, Stefan Saniga, Instagatrix, Bogdan Axenenko, Crescentia, Chris Turanek, Steve Lamb, and everybody else on my Patreon who supports me every single month. Oh, by the way, if you are a $1 Patreon or above, basically if you are pledging any amount of money to my Patreon, then I released my first episode of my Patreon exclusive podcast, Hawkuggle Talk Time. It is hopefully gonna try and make it a weekly show where I talk about basically whatever the fuck I talk about. I take some questions from you guys over on the Discord. I talk about some topics that I won't be talking about in videos, all of that kind of stuff. So if you're interested in it, then the first episode is available for all of you patrons out there, regardless of what tier you're in. So if you want to listen to that and check out some other cool rewards, make sure to click my Patreon, patreon.com/theanimeman. Links in the description below. Anyways, guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Like and favorite if you enjoy, subscribe for more anime banner, and I'll see you guys in the next video, or whatever I make. Keep watching anime. Tanny!